Tonight, a shootout in Ajax leaves 2 people critically injured.
We know that there's approximately 40 plus shots fired at this point.
A man and woman are in life-threatening condition tonight after an exchange of gunfire between 2 vehicles in broad daylight. We'll have the latest. Plus,
this is a game changer, and this will save lives.
After months of pressure, the Ford government unveiled its plan for paid sick leave. But does the new program deliver? We'll have reaction. And
they're exactly the type of group an innovative government and city should partner with.
The City of Toronto partnering with the volunteers behind the Twitter account Vaccine Hunters to help get more people to their shot. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. 2 people are in hospital with life-threatening injuries after a brazen daylight shooting in Ajax. Police say that the people in 2 vehicles were involved and there was an altercation right before the shooting.
It doesn't appear to be a random act. From what we've gathered from our investigators so far is that the individuals were at the intersection. We're not sure if they were in movement or if they were stopped, but it appears that there had been multiple shots fired. We know that there's approximately 40 plus shots fired at this point.
The shooting happened in the intersection of Kingston Road and Harwood Avenue at about 4:20 this afternoon. Police believe at least 1 person from 1 vehicle left the scene on foot. A man and a woman were rushed to a trauma center in Toronto with critical injuries. There have been no arrests and no suspect information has been released. The intersection is closed for the police investigation, and police are asking anyone with information or dashcam footage of the incident to come forward. Well, after first hinting at it last week, the province finally unveiled today its plan to bring in paid sick days through a temporary program. Now, we've been tracking reaction, but first, here's Lorenda Redicop with details of the plan.
We are the only province in Canada to introduce paid sick days specific to COVID-19.
The government announced its plan after people have been calling for help for essential workers for months. Doctors and others say it's mainly workers and their family members showing up in ICUs and emergency rooms with COVID-19. The plan would provide up to $200 a day for a maximum of 3 days. It would run from April 19th to September 25th, and it would be delivered by the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board to reimburse employers. The government promises there won't be any delay in payments.
There's no forms, there's no applications. The employer will pay the worker, and the employer will be reimbursed through the province.
My message to...
This is a government that's been under fire to bring in paid sick days as hospitalizations have increased.
This is a game changer, and this will save lives.
The government's had over a year to do this, and today's announcement is a huge disappointment.
The opposition argued this is coming way too late.
It's really not enough to stop the spread of COVID-19 in our workplaces. It's not enough to give people the financial security they need to be able to protect themselves, their co-workers, and their communities from COVID-19.
The province also repeated plans to double the federal government's current program, which would allow $1,000 a week for up to 4 weeks. But that hasn't been confirmed by the federal government.
We're going to continue to have that discussion with the federal government on many levels. The point is that their program exists, it's in place.
The 3 paid sick days still need to be passed in the legislature. The government says it's introducing its bill tomorrow. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
As Lorenda mentioned, there's long been a push for a sick leave program. In fact, the province's announcement comes after more than a year of calls from public health officials, frontline workers, and unions. And some of these groups are saying tonight the new plan doesn't quite go far enough. Farah Morali has been tracking reaction. And Farah, what are you hearing tonight?
Well, Calda, most people are saying, this is a step in the right direction. As you mentioned, many people have called for a program like this for quite some time. But for some people, 3 paid sick days simply doesn't go far enough, even though it is meant to be sort of a bridge to the federal program. The big question tonight is, will this program be incentive enough for essential workers to actually stay home when they're sick?
And we will have the best program anywhere in North America.
That's how Premier Doug Ford described the province's paid sick days program last week. With the details now finally released, How does it shape up to what so many were calling for?
When people get sick in factories and when factories have outbreaks in Peel, they come to the emergency department that I work at.
For frontline workers like Gabriel Stephen, the announcement is a step in the right direction, but still falls short.
The idea behind this program is that it's 3 days, and then if you need longer, it's a bridge to CRSB. Then you apply for the federal program, and then you have access to CRSB. The problem with this is that it still requires the same application process and eligibility criteria of the CRSB, which make it a barrier for workers to actually access.
Only 3 days right now for a virus that requires you to isolate for 10 days is totally shocking. And we know we are in the middle of a pandemic, so that does nothing. People are still going to go to work sick, for sure.
What many health experts were calling for, 10 paid sick days, including the mayor of one of the hardest hit cities in the region, Mississauga.
It's not the 10 days. It's not completely seamless, but it's a great head start on this.
We applaud the government that it's not permanent and not paid for by businesses because, quite frankly, the majority of small, medium-sized businesses can't afford additional costs at this time.
Welcoming today's announcement, business owners, but even some still question whether it'll be enough to ensure those who are sick actually stay home.
Is it providing the appropriate incentives? Is it easy enough, clear enough that this will change behavior? Because if it doesn't do that, it's not the right solution and it needs to be changed.
Now, Kelda, this evening, Ontario's Science Advisory Table published a series of tweets talking about the importance of what it called an effective sick day program, effective being in all caps. It pointed to the U.S., where a temporary program was brought in, and it actually resulted in a 50% drop in the number of new COVID cases a day. Minister McNaughton, the Minister of Labour, was asked today whether he consulted with his own Science Advisory Table on this plan, to which he didn't give a definitive response.
Thanks, Farah. That's our Farmer Alley reporting live for us tonight. A new report by the province's Auditor General is shedding more light on why Ontario's nursing homes were so badly hit by COVID-19. While the auditor says there is plenty of blame to be shared for what happened, the Minister of Long-Term Care is accepting none of it. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has this story.
The white wooden crosses are starting to show signs of wear. It's been a year since the first of these were planted, a memorial to those killed when COVID-19 ripped through the Camilla Care nursing home in Mississauga. 68 infected residents died, one of the worst outbreaks in Ontario. Everyone in this province knows nursing homes were devastated by the pandemic. The unanswered question, why did it get so bad?
A history of issues not being addressed in a timely way.
The Auditor General says previous governments neglected the long-term care sector for years. Then, when the pandemic hit, the current government moved too slowly to protect residents.
Some of the decisions with respect to the long-term care homes could have been made quicker.
The auditor says the province waited too long to order long-term care homes to put protective measures in place. For instance, nursing home staff were not ordered to wear masks until 4 weeks after the pandemic was declared. Ontario actually made long-term care more crowded in March of last year by transferring hundreds of patients out of hospital into nursing homes. The Minister of Long-Term Care was asked repeatedly about taking responsibility for what happened. She took none.
The building's on fire and you're running into it to try and save people? Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we tried to do. But we didn't start the fire.
What about the fact that more long-term care residents died in Ontario's second wave than in the first?
In the second wave, it comes back to the long-term care homes being in the regions of high community spread. Very hard to keep it out.
To see this minister deny any responsibility and try to deflect responsibility to others it's horrifying.
They may have not started the fire, but they poured gasoline on it by not taking the actions that was needed quick enough.
Another report on long-term care is due on Friday. It's from the independent commission appointed by the government last summer. Nearly half of the 8,000 people who died of COVID-19 in Ontario lived in long-term care. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
The province is taking steps to free up space in its hospitals with an emergency order that will allow the transfer of some patients to long-term care or retirement homes.
This temporary emergency order will provide hospitals with the flexibility to transfer certain patients, those whose doctors have determined no longer require hospital care and could be better supported in a more appropriate setting, to a long-term care or retirement home.
The order will allow for the transfers to be done without the patient's consent, but Elliott says every effort will be made to obtain consent if possible. The order will only be used in hospitals seeing major surges in COVID-19 patients. Officials say they will try to ensure patients are sent to facilities near their families. The latest figures show there are almost 900 people with COVID-related critical illnesses being treated in Ontario's intensive care units. Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, a mostly gray day today with some unsettled weather.
Yeah, you know, this weather system and pattern that we're in, stubborn, persistent. I mean, there's a lot of words I could use, not all of them on television. Yeah, we are just looking at this kind of situation where it's very hard to break out of it. Warm front that's become nearly stationary. And because of that, we get still, even overnight tonight, a few scattered showers, the drizzle, the cloud cover, and if the wind's fairly light overnight, also some fog that in some areas will be quite dense. So if you do need to be on the roads, allow extra time so that you can kind of work your way through it. And then, you know, as we look ahead into Thursday, some heavier rain to the south or across the Great Lakes, but that's going to skim around the Niagara region and even clipping towards the north shore of Lake Ontario. So rain coming through tomorrow afternoon, but early in the day, there's still that kind of drizzly activity with the fog. So not the greatest day. And Friday has some seriously interesting components to it, too. I'm going to talk about that coming up. Tonight, your low of 9 and Kelda high of 12 degrees tomorrow.
Thanks, Colette. Toronto is turning to the volunteers behind the Twitter account Vaccine Hunters Canada to help residents find vaccine appointments.
It is a volunteer organization, Vaccine Hunters that is doing great work. They're exactly the type of group an innovative government and city should partner with to benefit our residents.
At the end of each day, the city will inform vaccine hunters of the clinics where spots are still available for the next day. The account will then tweet the openings to its 200,000 plus followers. The group offered its services to the city on a volunteer basis. It doesn't accept donations and has no political, government, or business ties. While the group will tweet out openings, residents must still make their appointment through the provincial booking system on their own. The Toronto District School Board has approved a motion that will lead to a citywide review of school names to better reflect the diversity of the city. The TDSB will form a special group that will help with the consultation process. It will be composed of students, parents and guardians, educators, community members, experts, and individuals involved in anti-racism work. They will provide a proposal for all TDSB school names by the end of June. Now, this plan aims to improve the naming and renaming process for schools to ensure that they better represent the diverse people, cultures, and history of Toronto.
I'm sure they're taking flack from the government, from the police, from the town.
Golf courses were ordered closed as part of the stay-at-home order, but that's not stopping at least one course from staying open, with several golfers hitting the links there today. We'll have more on the calls to open up and allow people to get outside after the break. A golf course in Tillsonburg near London, Ontario is remaining open despite the provincial lockdown. And while it is not sitting well with many government officials, golfers are flocking to the course. Greg Ross has more.
Golfers in Tillsonburg weren't going to let a little thing like a province-wide lockdown spoil their fun.
Perfect day for it. Gorgeous day out here. Everybody should be out enjoying ourselves.
This twosome hit the links at the Bridges at Tillsonburg Golf Course, where owners are ignoring lockdown protocols, and they were open for business today.
I'm sure they're taking flack from the government, from the police, from the town.
These golfers say they are getting mixed messages from the top. A spokesperson for the health minister told us in a statement, "We are taking the necessary action required to control the spread. The public health measures we've introduced are designed to reduce mobility and limit the risk of transmission in order to stabilize and protect our healthcare system," a sentiment echoed by some health officials near Tillsonburg.
We've got big numbers right now, so as much as everybody hates it, and even I would like to play tennis, we need to buy the rules.
But many other health officials have a different opinion.
Outdoors is way safer than indoor environments, and we should be promoting outdoor environments. We should be promoting people to get outside. It's good for physical well-being, it's good for mental well-being, and the risk of transmission is exceedingly small.
Some are calling on the province to reconsider the ban on outdoor activities, similar to the way they reversed rules on police checks and playground closures. So far, Doug Ford is sticking to his guns on this issue.
Having the police stop people in different districts, that didn't work. The second thing was the playgrounds, and that didn't work. And I think 3 strikes would have made him look foolish. So my thoughts are, lift the ban on the golf course and let guys get out of their houses.
We reached out to the owners of the Bridges at Tillsonburg Golf Course. A manager here told us they're not talking to the media, preferring to keep a low profile. When I asked about available tee times, I was told they're booked solid through May 3rd. Now, whether or not they're still going to be open then is up in the air. The OPP wouldn't say if they're going to close them down, only telling us they are investigating. Greg Ross, CBC News, Tillsonburg.
There's Gurria. It's one high and deep, and this one's gonna go.
The Jays still riding high after last night's big win against the Nationals. George Springer making his long-awaited debut, but tonight, well, wasn't one for the history books. The Jays were down 8 runs and weren't able to get on the board until the 5th inning. Bo Bichette would add a solo home run in the 8th, but by that point, the hole was too deep to dig out of. Washington takes Game 2, 8-2.
Matthews in, no shot. Morgan Riley, Margaret Front scores. Tipped in front.
And the Leafs taking on the Habs in Montreal. They haven't played since Saturday and were looking pretty refreshed. William Nylander getting Toronto on the board less than 2 minutes into play. Austin Matthews would add another to give the Leafs a 2-goal lead heading into the first intermission. Both teams would add goals in the second period, and Toronto would score in the third to pad out their lead. Leafs win this one 4-1. You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. You can't really see the CN Tower, though, because of that thick fog. The fog will remain through the overnight with some light showers as well. Currently, it's 9 degrees in downtown Toronto. Let's go back to Colette now with a more detailed look at your forecast. And Colette, we can expect some fog and drizzle as we head into Thursday.
Yeah, so let me get into some of the highlights, or maybe, depending on your perspective, lowlights. But these are your headlines in terms of what we're looking at here as we're moving through the end of the week and getting towards the weekend. For Thursday, we're still looking at gray skies and that drizzle, morning fog. Some of it's going to be rather dense through the overnight and tomorrow morning, and then some rain into the afternoon. And Friday was really looking like that transition day to kind of break out of things. But with a front that's going to be dropping through, it kind of sweeps out this weather pattern. That's good, but it's going to cool our temperatures down, make for windy conditions, so not necessarily the nicest day there on Friday. Saturday is a real turnaround where we will see more sunshine and our temperatures a little bit more moderate. But speaking of moderate or even warm, 25 in Windsor today, and Hamilton so close, right? Hamilton low 20s there, but Toronto just 16, Oshawa 15, just kind of getting that flow, what we have, the winds coming off the lake still and not into that warm sector. There's that system riding to the south of us, but now the models want to bring it just a little bit over the north shore of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario as we go through the day Thursday. So fog, morning drizzle, and then rain coming through as well. And then this kind of brings this cold front down through Friday. And with that, late in the day, a few wet flurries are even going to be possible. Harder to find towards the city, like downtown, but north of the 407, certainly quite likely. Tonight's temperatures, double digits except for Sarnia and London for your overnight lows in southwestern Ontario. That'll take some getting used to after the last couple of days. Winds are a high of 12. Tonight's temperatures around the Golden Horseshoe with some of that fog being quite dense, 7 to 10 degrees. And then tomorrow afternoon, you know, these temperatures are a little below seasonal for this time of year. Friday certainly going to feel quite cool, and Friday night into Saturday. Saturday would be a chilly start, but once we get going, we will get going into the weekend, and things looking pretty good, Kelda.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
It's a beautiful display of flowers, but it's also a way to say thanks. The Rotary Club of Willowdale planted a bed of daffodils to show their appreciation to essential workers.
It's really thoughtful of the Rotary Club to do this wonderful display of thanks, of just saying thanks to the community, to the nurses, to the doctors, the hospital, just about everyone concerned. It's really a fantastic idea.
Just to walk by and take a look and spend a few minutes, you know, it would really help them mentally.
Nothing like a crowd of daffodils to lift your spirits. The Rotary Club planted the 1,500 bulbs last fall at the foot of North York Hospital as a way to say thank you to healthcare workers. Now in spring, the flowers are in full bloom for everyone to see, and with a special name, the Rotary Club calls them the Gratitude Gardens. And finally tonight, what started out as a typical day for an elementary school teacher in Windsor turned into a rescue mission. The adventure began when school custodians turned to her for help after they heard faint quacks coming from a narrow drain pipe in the schoolyard.
The drain pipe was, I don't know, about 2 feet down, the length of my arm, and just, you know, just a little less than the length of my arm, because I was able to get right to the bottom. When we first started, we thought there were only 4. And that was the amazing part, because after we got the first 4 out, there was like, oh, and there's another one. And here comes another one.
The grade 3-4 teacher managed to pull 11 tiny ducklings in distress to safety. All were immediately reunited with an extremely agitated mother duck quacking loudly nearby. And just when they thought they'd plucked out the last one, they discovered a 12th duckling trapped so deeply they had to break the drain pipe and dig to finally reach it. Talk about lucky ducks. Glad they're all okay. That's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. And we'll leave you now with pictures from our CBC drone team of the cherry blossom trees in High Park. The trees are past their peak bloom, but you can still catch a glimpse of them in real time through the city's Bloom Cam. Have a great night, everyone.